at what changes a Biden presidency is likely to bring in for international students. Okay, so President Joe Biden, well, I should say President-elect, because at the time of this, session, President he's still the President-elect, and that might change in the coming months. So you will have to first look at what are the likely changes for people who wish to work in the US, and also green card policies for graduate students. Green card policy, a green card is essentially a permanent residency or a PR, which means you get to stay in the country as long as you like, whether you have a job, they don't have a job, but you have to follow certain rules, you have to abide by the law, and you don't get to vote. You're not an actual citizen, but you are a permanent resident, right? You need to understand there are different kinds of eligibility to live there, right? One could be a temporary student visa like an F1, or a temporary worker visa like an H1B visa. Then a green card is a permanent residence. They are not temporary. They can stay as long as they like. And but they have to, if they travel outside, they have to keep coming back every few months to establish their residency. Or you can be a citizen, in which case you can stay, you can leave. It kind of really doesn't matter, right? So let's look at the policies for green card, or for permanent residency or a green card, and also employment policies. So the first thing is, I would like to make a statement. I would like to read out what the Biden campaign has said according to a policy document. So they have said that high-skilled temporary visas should not be used to disincentivize recruiting workers already in the US for in-demand operations. So if you already are in the US and you have a skill which is in demand, then you should not be it should not be difficult to hire you. It should be easy to hire you, right? It goes on to say that an immigration system that crowds out high-skilled workers in favor of only entry-level wages and skills threatens American innovation and competitiveness. Okay, so what this means is, if you don't make it easy for high-skilled workers to work in the US, and if you only make low-skilled workers or entry-level wages or manual laborers kind of a thing, make it easy, then it's good. How can America retain its innovation? How can it retain its competitiveness, right? And they can, and many Americans do understand the value that immigrants bring in to their country. For example, the CEO of Microsoft, or the CEO of Google, right, Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai, respectively. Now, these are Indian immigrants who have gone there and they have been working there and on a temporary visa, and then eventually they became permanent residents and citizens, right? So they can see the value that immigrants bring in. But at the same time, they don't wish to prioritize immigrants over actual citizens of the country, and that is something that everyone can understand, right? So because and America also has a history. It has a history of being a nation of immigrants, right? If you think about it, the only true Americans were the Native Americans who were there before Columbus landed on the shores of the continent, right, a few hundred years ago. So afterwards, everybody who came in has been an immigrant, in the sense that from a historical sense. Right. And even as early as in the 1900s, you had people coming in from countries like Ireland, which had not, where they had not, or Poland, and they had not yet been there and living in the US. So people who had already been living in the US for a long time, like, for example, the descendants of people coming in from Britain or England, they would look at people coming in from Poland and say, oh, look at all these immigrants, right? Or Italy, and say, look at all these immigrants. So there has always been a history in the US of waves of people coming in from other countries, and the US is a true melting pot. Most of the population has descendants that are descendants of people who have reached the continent in the last few hundred years, right? So this is a very there is a historical acceptance of immigrants. As long as the immigrants contribute to the economy, they add to the value, and they help make America more and more innovative, and retain its technological edge, which becomes more and more crucial. So a lot of this context needs to be taken into account when you're talking about uh, the approach that Biden is stating with respect to high skilled workers. If you're high skilled, you want to contribute to the economy, you can help America be the leader in innovation and global competitiveness, then we want you. Okay. So a couple of policies that Biden has talked about is, to take urgent action to undo Trump's damage and reclaim America's values. Now, I don't wish to read into this, but this is a statement in their policy statement. They want to modernize the American immigration system. There is an approach of welcoming immigrants and reassert America's commitment to asylum seekers, refugees, people who are coming there because they are literally hunted and oppressed in their home nation, and kind of make it a very streamlined approach to migration. You don't want to have irregular, arbitrary migration, right? So these are certain policies that they have talked about, and you can expect a few changes in the immigration policy. So that you can expect. We don't know when he will do it, whether he do it in the first as of month as upon taking office, or whether he will do it after a bit. But the changes that are expected to happen are likely to be as follows. So earlier under Trump, the student visas were limited. How many visas you could get, what was the duration, and some international students were very uncertain. There's some bit of concern, but all of that is likely to go away, right? So similarly, the restrictions put in on the H-1B visa, they are also likely to be lifted. And this is very important because see, roughly, you have to keep in mind that 75 to 80% of full-time graduate students in the US, especially in the technology fields, are all international students. So only 20 to 25% of tech graduate students in the US, by graduate I mean masters and PhD students, only 20 to 25% of them are Americans or American citizens or permanent residents. So the rest of them, the huge bulk of graduate students, are from other countries, and therefore universities have a very strong reason to want to continue to welcome international students, and universities will have definitely have a strong say or a strong lobbying power under a Biden administration, and therefore you can expect that they will be more welcoming towards international students, right? So for example, on terms of the green card, also Biden has explicitly stated that he wants to remove the per country quota. Right, there is a current quota for different countries, and that was put in by the Trump administration, which was and which was worsened, rather exacerbated during the time. And you would expect that the number of high skill visas will increase, right? There will not be if you are a high skilled worker, they want you, and this is expected to benefit tens of thousands of Indian professionals, right? And earlier, there was the Trump administration had revoked or removed the ability of spouses of H-1B visa holders to work, but the Biden presidency is going to reinstate it. So they will allow you to work there if you have an H-1B permit, right? So, and also the process of getting the green card, the number of green cards that can be allocated every year, all of those are likely to see an improvement. So now let's move on to how PhD aspirants, especially in STEM fields, are likely to benefit from a Biden administration, right? So first of all, when you are a PhD student, Biden has said so very clearly in his website that if you have a PhD, especially in a STEM field from an American university, we want you to stay back in this country. We don't want to lose you. Okay, we want to keep you here so you can continue to give us an edge, right? And that is something that is actually stated in the Biden website. Let me I will actually give you a link here and in the chat, and you can take a look to see for yourself exactly how how the Biden administration, what their policy is in terms of immigration, right? So you should definitely look at that. And you can just go to joebiden.com/immigration. It gives you a lot of information. And one of the very interesting things he's talked about there is that, look, if you have a PhD program from a STEM field, then we want you here. Why don't we give you a green card right along with your degree? Right? You should be encouraged to stay here. You want to start a startup, we want you to do that. If you've been so good as to get a PhD admit and complete your PhD and successfully defend your dissertation at an American university in a STEM field, then we don't want to lose you, because losing highly trained workers to foreign economies is a disservice to our own economic competitiveness. And this is something that they have very clearly stated on their website, joebiden.com/immigration. So we are likely to see an increase in the number of PhD applicants who want to go to the US. Right. So this is something that you would definitely want to give some thought to, especially if you are genuinely interested in pursuing a PhD, if you want to pursue research, and if you have clear areas of interest, then this is something you should definitely think about. Right. And a quick primer on terms of STEM students. Keep in mind that more than 30% of international students in the US, they come from China, and 20% come from India. So half of all international STEM students, by STEM we mean science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, half of all of these graduate students come from only these two countries. And if you take all of the different countries from where students come in, international students contributed in 1 year just for $45 billion they have contributed to the US economy, right? So because of the tuition they bring in, because of what they spend, later on what they buy, when they buy cars, when they buy, whatever it is, they continue to live there, they contribute to the economy, right? And students who wish to remain in the US and gain work experience, you can definitely seek the H-1B visa after your OPT, and there is going to be continued support for that.